Come on, bro, you can kite these, you know? Queuing for a 12 and not having a route is kinda griefing though, right? Oh, damn, we tried those big boy strats, huh?
1, 2, 3.
Yeah, I'm done with this game. This has to be griefing, man. Dude! Hey guys, it's Kusi. And as you can tell from the intro part, I'm not feeling well. I'm in a bad spot, man. With all these 10s done, 3k seemed so close, and yet it's so far away that it seems less likely to happen than your parents giving it another chance for your sake. Damn! The truth is, this is going to be a rough episode, guys. I'm gonna be honest. I've seen things your therapist won't believe, because I know mine didn't. Things that make the 12 I teased last episode actually seem like one of the better keys. All you need to know is that I'm trying. And I can honestly say, it was never my fault. Tanks are just beyond retarded and would forget how to breathe if those fat asses wouldn't breathe heavily after walking up the stairs. And
you need to relax.
Oof. Honestly, I don't know where that came from.
Okay, let's go.
Alright, like the video, please? Alright then, I left you with the quick glimpse into my future with a 12 that had kinda the worst basics for being my first attempt ever on that key level. Squishy as tank, arguably, and caverns as a dungeon is not a good combination. So what happened here? The truth is, this was a classic case of not being on the same page. You see, most of our party was under the impression that this is a situation that includes a timer that needs to be beaten, and others weren't. If you look at the DPS, we got a Devourer which is completely busted right now, an Unholy which, shocker, is completely busted right now, hence why they absolutely deserve getting buffed. And just to make those big dick specs look even better, we got a moving enlargement pill dispenser with an augmentation. Devourer's funnel damage is through the roof, meaning the more targets, the quicker it destroys the priority targets. Now, before you think I'm just bashing the tank here for not pulling big, that's not true at all. I do think that on some pulls he went too careful with it, but in the majority, a safe playthrough without any deaths or even full wipes has a good chance of beating the timer. I'm just saying, Devourer would prefer to get some targets to get his shit done. What's the point in enhancing a DPS with an augmentation if there's nothing to hit, am I right? This kinda peaked when he wanted to play the mini-boss on the altar after the first boss, completely solo, until I asked him to grab a few on top in the meantime. Cause that mini-boss doesn't do shit. I can just freedom anybody who gets targeted, and you can just cleave everything down in the meantime. As you can tell, this was a mostly tame run. 4 deaths is fine, considering how most of them were just suicidal attempts like our Demon Hunter wanting more balls to the chin than Bonnie Blue. But in reality, this was only doable because we had some very solid DPS to make up for the kinda lost minutes on low pegs. 5 minutes for the final boss is absolutely doable, unless your Death Knight emphasizes on the whole death part a bit too much. This, by the way, is why I dislike augmentation in these situations. If one DPS dies and you can't get them back up, the buffs of augmentation heavily loses its value too. Long story short, we killed the boss after an eternity and overcapped on 42 seconds. We had some funny chat interactions then, where both parties had a point. We could have pulled bigger to make up for some time, that's true, but we also didn't need to die multiple times to avoidable mistakes during bosses that made us use CR. Now, for me personally, this was a test run. Can I hit a 12? Absolutely. And hey, I do need to practice, cause trust me when I tell you, I'll be back here a lot. Matter of fact, I'm gonna apply directly to another one. Mainly because no one else chooses to accept me as the trusted guardian in other dungeons. Or maybe not. Let's get the other nasty dungeon that completely revolves around tanks out of the way then. The ugly bird's nest hailing from Cataclysm, I think, is one I'm not too fond of. A lot of AoE damage coming in and a last first pull situation that could make or break the run. Well, technically you can still time it after a full wipe, but you can't repair the moral of the mental weak. The first pull has 2 different variations. The first is rough to heal through due to random casts going off, an AoE screech from the bird and some ground effects one should avoid. The second variation would be to pull around the corner and die. Luckily, we went with option 1, and thus, we somehow lived. And I was pleasantly surprised our tank didn't play the entire platform at the first boss, while instead pulling 2 birds down. Never mind, he did the thing. Granted, as long as the rappel doesn't go off, it's a basic pull. Quickly after the first boss, I had a glimpse of the future while our tank decided to simply not kite even with 20 plus bleed stacks on his ass. Just do it, man. Shockwave and dip, it's not that deep. Though for me personally, similar to the Caverns run, I was learning, studying the damage patterns and testing different reactions in terms of button usage for those patterns. Usually you want to use Divine Toll at all times, but sometimes the incoming damage is so frequent that Divine Toll won't be up for it. So you have to think about in which situation it makes more sense. Don't forget, Divine Toll itself isn't as impressive, but it triggers so many things. Your hero talent, or at least the one I'm using, and a lot of instant heals to top people off in no time. And before you tell me, oh, you should have used Divine Toll after laser before it's... Yeah, I know, I'm testing, alright? Calm down. Jeez, man. But again, long story short, we died due to lack of kiting. I told you it's a foreshadowing. 2 full wipes later, tank's gear was broken, and so the weak-minded, me, wanted to dip. So instead, we returned to the caverns. I told you we will be back. This time it only took us shortly over 20 minutes to find a tank, but thankfully it was one of the 2 that Blizzard considers tanky this season. And yet, with a new tank, come new problems. If you can't handle big pulls, don't do them. I don't think it's science. Since we didn't fully wipe, it's not that important, considering this is by far the biggest pull we are going to do. But it got me thinking, is this a bad sign? Sure was. 3 deaths just on the first boss alone, because someone didn't seem to be bothered by the bird's charge. What did crack me up though was the Warlock precasting Soulstone before the pull on his own ass, just in case. I also figured out another problem, we didn't play enough trash. Yes, there's trash in the end you can play, but you can also go to the proctologist when having back pain. And just in case you wonder why you don't want to play trash later on, it's because of the healer diff, clearly. Needless to say, because we had 12 deaths here and ended with 20, some shit happened. Some shit I don't know how to explain. I wanted to dodge the crazy tornadoes, which, by the way, whoever designed those, good job, man. They follow no pattern and are annoying as hell. I body pulled, died, and my party didn't see it, so they died to the AoE of the little mini-boss upstairs. Granted, I kinda gave up a while ago and I felt this overwhelming urge of self-reflected hate again that League of Legends brought out of me years ago. The final boss was also just an absolute buttfuck. Between big puddles being spawned on top of totems, some of us getting hit by unnecessary things, and me being an orphaned kitty in the wild, lost, confused, and scared, this was nothing to be proud of. Try to be positive about it though I'm not sure if the routing itself was the issue, as we did have a lot of failures leading to this outcome. But with that being said, having a route in mind when applying for 12 should be the least you could do as a tank. If not, look for people with resilient key level 12s to test shit out, so you can just reset and go again. Now the key owner has to look for people for 45 minutes again due to selfishness. With that being said, I would be thrilled to finally play something that isn't caverns. But it seems like I was in bad luck. And they say healers get easy and Viets low. But hey, in case someone is looking for a chill dad guild for Delves, Mythic Plus, world content and housing, well, look no further than the North Star Warriors on Khadgar. They offer you more than your parents ever could. A stable home. After an undisclosed amount of time, I finally got the pat on the back for a Magister's 12 and I'm cool with that. I timed that bitch on 11, didn't have many problems, so I'm zoned in. And boy did I have to be, considering this G just deadass pulled 3 of them glaive tossers at once. Hey, if you don't hate your healer, don't do this. It's so disgusting to play in pucks. You got no idea how much I aged during these few minutes. The worst thing is the DPS often just switch to new targets and then just cleave the old ones down, meaning they stay alive for a lot longer than necessary. Be that as it may, I was proud of myself only letting one person drop because he had a bleed and a debuff. But you best believe I told the tank how I really felt during my quick hydrating sit down. Now here's a question for you tank players, cause I never tanked this dungeon on the 10 or above. At least not in my memory. What is it with this pull? The amount of times I have tanks caving in during this pull is a lot more often than you would guess. I don't think there's any mob in there that does a heavy tank shenanigans, or at least there are no debuffs visible. Is it just because the pull gets taken lightly? I kid you not, this pull is a struggle really often. Way more often than it should, considering we just came from a boss fight and he probably should had Incarn ready. Disregarding, you probably guessed it by looking at the timer. Shit was rough out here. Hunter had to repair, so we ported out, we ported back in, and then forgot to port him back in a second time, since the first time only summons to the entrance of the dungeon. Blizzard, please fix. And so we overtimed yet another run, and I'm getting tired of it. So I thought, F it, and went to the place where it all started. The arguably nastiest trash in the game to start. Well, if you have a party that doesn't know how to remove the debuff, that is. Finally a proper tank, thanks Blizzard. A tank who also makes smart pulls. A mage that uses a defensive during chains, and a warlock who in fact did remove the chains off himself. Oh hell nah, man. Not again. This was a quick reality check for me. We smoothly sailed through the dungeon up until this very point, and it made me understand that this is far from over. So I had to log in. And locking in is what I did when on the second boss the Disorient cast went through. I bubbled
Oh, really?
and kept everyone alive like a true healer main, all while fueling the flame inside of me, because why the hell did that go through in the first place? I was kinda proud of myself though, not gonna lie. Thank God I can go to bed now, is what I would say if I'd be a bitch.
And that's a fact.
Oh, by the way, we are already past the reset, and just in case you're wondering why I didn't show you the vault. So instead of calling it a day, being happy about the little progress made, I had an even better idea. Skyreach again. I want to get this shit dungeon out of my system for good, and God knows it would be content. Because we had a 1.3k augmentation and a 3k tank. Now, what you don't know is that I applied to a 12th Skyreach with a Brewmaster monk who had the little notification telling me he's a bitch. And there was one moment I thought it might have been this party. We did our first pull, right? Lust was used, no deaths, no nothing. And this dude just rolled backwards and top speed.
For what? Why?
At that point, I was giggling like a schoolgirl. Because right now it's after midnight. I was cooked by way too much funny business going on today. And then this dude just seemingly dipped. But apparently that was normal? Or he just forgot to change the talents? I don't care, I didn't ask. I was happy we continued. And by all means, this was one of the smoothest run I had. Besides the fact our suicidal demon hunter couldn't wait for the tank to get back to the boss. Not once, but twice. Or us collecting more deaths by min-maxing the little running phase. By dying?
I don't know, Jeff.
But the true, disgusting, pathetic and beyond stupid thing was about to happen. I have never seen this type of lacking mechanical knowledge and overconfidence. You see, during this final boss, an ad was spawned to grab a random person towards the edge and give him the Sparta experience, sorta. But if you are a class with a jump, glide or teleport, you can easily let it happen and then safely return to the platform. And while I told my party that I sent my 6-second stun instantly on the bird, they told me that it's only going to be my bird who's gonna get killed, the others will be ignored. I remember these from high keys I've seen. I was excited because I already seen a warlock pulling it off. But this shit, you cannot make this up. Every single one of them failed it. Everyone. Which meant we had to do it again. Yeah, we had lust, but only 2 minutes. I was so pissed. Like, deadass pissed. Usually, I'd be happy to have this for quote-unquote content, haha, we can make fun of it, and I can have a chuckle at it now that it's over, but boy, was I mad that we depleted this key by 5 seconds due to this absolute insane tactic that I only can describe as an attempt to grieve me. This might be the most difficult season I've ever played, but not because it's actually difficult.